Hi, I'm Erica and I live fully off-grid with my husband and 2 kids. Today I'm going to show you how easy it is to dry plums and make prunes, which are a fantastic snack, especially on the go. And if you have any leftover plums, how to make a delicious plum crisp. If you don't know, I have a website called thehomeintent.com where I have a lot of my recipes. And there is a post all about drying plums. So if you just search Plums on thehomeintent.com, you can find all the tips and tricks and instructions there, and I'll link that post below as well. You can dry plums in the oven or the dehydrator. We have a dehydrator and I prefer it because it's a little more hands-off and more efficient. So we moved in the spring and our dehydrator got moved into our basement and not used. So I'm just giving it a thorough clean because it was down there with the mice and collecting grime and dust. So I'm cleaning out all the trays and the whole thing because I want it to be clean, obviously, for drying food in it. You can, of course, dry any variety of plum. We choose to dry prune plums, also known as Italian plums or European plums. They're smaller and so they dry faster. Now, you want the plums to be quite ripe. If they're not very ripe, it'll be a lot harder to remove the pits. If they're ripe enough, you'll be able to slice through them and the pit will come out, no problem. When I first made these, I didn't let them get quite ripe enough, and it probably took double the time because I was struggling to pry the pits out. So give it a few extra days, let them get nice and ripe, and it'll be a much more efficient process for you. Once you're ready to start this process, give the plums a good rinse just to get any debris or bugs off, and drain them well. Then you're going to just slice them in half, remove the pit, and you're gonna flip them inside out. That'll make the drying process faster and more even. Some people do dry plums whole, but it takes a whole lot longer, and you still have to make a slit between the skin and the pit so that air can get inside. So if you're gonna be cutting them all anyway, may as well cut them in half and cut down your drying time. Making prunes is one of the easiest and fastest preserving projects you could ever do, in my opinion. Tell me if there's something that's easier and faster, because this is just, you rinse, you cut, you fill the trays, and then you turn the dehydrator on and leave it, and that's it. There's no canning, there's no peeling, there's no tedious pit removal unless you try to do unripe plums, but it's very quick and simple. We really like plums as a snack, and it's a great one to just keep in your bag as a mom. Just have a little bag of dried plums, and the kids love it. It's a sweet snack that just keeps them chewing on it for a long time. Besides that, though, there are other ways that you can use dried plums. One of them is in simmer pots. So a simmer pot is where you put a few delicious, fragrant ingredients in a pot of water and simmer it just as a non-toxic way to fill your home with a beautiful scent. So dried plums are a great addition to those, especially in the fall and winter. I'll tell you a few more uses for the dried plums in a minute, but let's just talk about this crisp that I'm making with the extra plums. So we got a 20-pound box of plums, and we used probably 90% of it fit in our dehydrator, and we snacked on the rest, and the remaining went into this plum crisp. I am all about healthy eating, but I'm also all about treats. I love treats, I love desserts, And so I always make the healthiest possible version of a dessert. I use quality whole food ingredients and as little sugar as possible to still make it taste sweet and delicious. This recipe is not on my blog yet, but I will write it down in the description for you so you can make it if you wish. I avoid wheat personally, so I use oat flour, but you could use wheat flour in place of the oat flour in the recipe, and pretty much any type of sugar you could use as well. Being off-grid, our power situation is kind of strange, and so we had the dehydrator plugged into our house, but it was pulling too much power from our solar batteries, and so we decided to pull out our smallest generator and run that just to run the dehydrator. And that's why we had the dehydrator moved to the shop here. The drying time will depend on the size of the plums. With these halved and flipped inside out, it takes about 24 to 30 hours. And you will notice that a lot of them are dry at the same time, but then there's usually a few that aren't quite there yet. So I just separate those onto a dehydrator tray and let it go for a couple more hours until I'm happy with it. It is also helpful to rotate the trays once or twice during the drying process because certain areas of the dehydrator are hotter than others, so they'll dry more quickly and more evenly if you do that. So you want your end result to be flexible, pliable, but not mushy at all. So always check the thickest part and make sure there's no moisture there. Okay, a few more ways you can use these prunes. One is in any recipe that calls for prunes, obviously. So think like baked goods, like anything you would put a raisin in, you could chop up these prunes and use them. There's also a lot of dinner recipes that have prunes. My mother-in-law made one once when we were visiting, and it was really good. So just search dinner recipes with prunes, and actually there's quite a few options that come up, and they are delicious. You can also make a prune puree with these, which can also be used in a variety of savory and sweet dishes, and I'll leave a link below to some recipes for those. If you store the prunes in an airtight container in a cool, dry place, they should last at least a year and could last for a lot longer. If you're worried at all, you can also put some of those little moisture absorber packets in the jar with them. Then you can rest assured they'll be fine. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and comment below if you have any other ways or ideas that you use prunes. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.